What's up, everybody? It's Bill from High Volume Games, and welcome to another episode of High-ish Volume Racing. And today we are going to talk about the best spring ever. So normally I do every third weekend at work, and when I schedule races or charity walks or something like that, I always have to make sure I'm not working. And I'm sure everybody has that problem. And so last year I was training for Dopey and doing the Galloway, and Galloway has this thing where okay, there's a week, as you're getting towards the end, there's a week where there's 6 miles, there's a week where there's 7 miles, and then there's a week where there's a extended run, so like 14, 17, 20. So in August, my coworker was leaving, going back to school. So I asked the boss, hey, can I switch weekends? Because my weekend always fell on the long one. So he said yes, and I moved over to the weekend that had the 6th, which was great. And it was just fine. Everything was going well. And so Dopey ended, and I started looking at stuff for 2023. And the first thing I noticed was, hey, okay, this race is on my off weekend. Cool. Wait, this one's on my off weekend too. Awesome. And it kept going like that. So to the point where now I have 8 events that are 7 of them are within a span of March 12th to May 29th. And so I decided this was going to be called the best spring ever, because we're just, for someone like me who a lot of the time doesn't really, other than to go for a training run, doesn't really go out of the house much on off days. I'm going to be everywhere this year, so especially to places I've never seen before. So let's talk about those events real quick. We're going to do the first 2. I've already mentioned the first 3, but we're going to talk a little bit about them. So the first one is the Rainham Charity 5 Miler. This would be considered my hometown race. It's just a few miles from home. It's, I've done it technically 4 times. I've done it 4 times. The course, it's the course that it's laid out on. It's always been on the same course, but it's had 2 different starting points. And I've run this starting point 5 mile 4 times as well, because 5 miles home used it as well. So I like this race. It's a perfect starting race. It's a little challenging, but not too bad. The first mile, there's a big hill, but actually the rest of the race, you're kind of going, there's a few little hills, but nothing worth mentioning. But a lot of the time you're going kind of downhill, even though you don't notice it, because it just kind of slowly grades down the whole way. It's going to be the first race where I'm going to try my new camera out. I got the DJI Pocket. I talked with Jared from the Jarox and Spoon channel, and he had mentioned some of the cameras he used. I picked up this one. I've been practicing with it. I still got some mistakes on it, but we'll see. I've been trying to edit stuff. The thing is, a lot of people do, the Run Disney races. They'll film it. But a lot of up here, nobody seems to film anything. Nobody vlogs the runs here. So I was like, let me get a camera, and spotlight some of the local races around here. So we're gonna do that, and the Rainham Charity 5 Mile is gonna be the first one we do this with. So the next race is the TCS Shoveltown 5K Run. Again, I mentioned it last time. This race was kind of the surprise for me. I thought it was going to be 50, 60 people. It's a small town, and I thought this was going to be just a very small race. And it turned out to be 500 people. And it was a beautiful course. Again, I just think maybe because I'd never been there, and I got to see all this cool stuff. Really downhill race. I kept waiting for the uphill, but it was just such a slow grade up that I really didn't, I wasn't winded because we were going uphill. But I really enjoyed those downhills. So those 2 we talked about before. I cannot wait for them. Those are in March. I gotta get going. I mean, we're only what 3 weeks away from. We're 3 weeks away from the charity 5 miler. We gotta get going. I'm riding on that marathon. But so the next race is the Toy Story 10 miler. Now I talked about that one, but more details have now filled in. So I'm going to leave on the Thursday, which would actually be Expo Day, but instead of taking the plane and getting on the Expo that day, I'm taking the train. It's very similar to the Dopey. I'm going to take the train out of Providence, get to DC. I got about a 5-hour layover. Now, see, last time it was January, and we had 8 days worth of stuff. We had a lot of luggage, plus I was doing the 4 races, so I had a lot of, like, stuff to heal and all that. So we had a lot of baggage during that trip. Whereas this one is a 4-day trip with one race. I don't need anything really to recover or stuff like that. Plus it's April, so sundown isn't until later. So I think DC, I'm gonna stop and I'm gonna go outside and go see the Capitol. Capitol's just a little, like, one block up the way, and then you can see the Washington Monument from there and stuff like that. Just to get out and get some pictures and stuff like that, because I think with what I'm going to do with the camera on the 10-miler and Boulder for that matter, is I'm not going to take, video, or I'm not going to do, like, race, like I'm not going to do a race vlog. What I'm going to do is the vlog of the journey. So from leaving my house, taking the train, getting to the hotel, doing the race, all that. I'll do that rather than just the race recap, because there's so many better people who do the race recaps. I don't need to join into that. I'll just do kind of my own. And so once we get out of Washington, get in the sleeper car, get down there, be there on the Friday afternoon. Gonna go to the expo that day. That way, on the 10K, I can go down. I'm not in the 10K, but I can go to the race and see everybody, see the slackers, see anybody I've seen or talked to recently, and then hopefully, and go cheer. I've never cheered a race, let alone a Disney race. My mom did it. She was at 3 of the 4 Dopey races last month. So I want to go over there. The goal would be to, like, get a picture or get a video of the slackers taking off at the start line, then go run, maybe stop at one of those food trucks that I always see that I never get any food from. Maybe get a pizza cone or a grilled cheese, and then head to the finish line and get a picture of them finishing. And so that'll be the 10K day, and then we'll run the 10-miler. Again, I actually have a interesting little costume for that. I found this, like, Hawaiian shirt that has Mickey Mouse with a surfboard, and it's all in Miami Marlins colors, and it says Marlins on it, and the shorts match. So I'm like, okay, this sounds good. People might ask who I am, and I'm not really anybody, but I'm a Marlins fan. It's kind of my gimmick these days. So I actually saw a beach towel today that matches that, and I was like, dude, should I, as a prop, have a beach towel? But that'll be fun, and then I'll fly back the next day. I'm not a big flyer, which we'll talk about at Boulder, because that got a really interesting journey with that one. Not the best flyer, especially alone, but it's a short enough trip, and it's the early morning flight, so I should be really good. Hold on. No editing here, although I should edit, because I should train myself on editing this. So the next 2 races are very special. Well, the next 2 events. One is not a race, but the next 2 events are very special. I've been doing them for a long time. The Crush Cancer 5K was originally the hometown race, because it was just down the street from me, but it has the most meaning to me because the first year that it ran was 2013. my dad had but the day that I found out about this race, my dad had just told me that there was nothing that could be done for him with his 10-year bout with cancer. So I had decided I was going to, uh, you know, run this in his honor, in his memory at that point. That was the thought process. And so a month came and he was still with us and we're approaching the race. And I was like, this is going to be amazing. I'm going to be able to run this race and still show him a picture of it, me running for him. And then unfortunately he passed 4 or 5 days before the race. And it was crushing. And actually the support I got from the running community during that race and that week was amazing, even to the point where Dan from Northeast Race Management said, hey, if you can't run this, if you don't want to run this, I understand, we'll give you a refund, we totally understand. And I was like, no, I'm going to do this. This was originally planned to be a memorial race for him, so I'm going to do it. I'm going to run this for him. And that's what happened. I ran that first race. I will say I was a mess during that first race, obviously, but I did the pointing to the sky, and so every year that I did the Crush Cancer after that, I pointed to the sky. That's kind of my tribute to him. So I'm just so happy to see Crush Cancer back. I've not done well in the Bridgewater course, but I do like the course. I just think I've never been really trained well by the time Crush Cancer shows up. But the good thing is I'm semi-trained now after the marathon a month ago, and then we got the Rainham 5-miler, the Shoveltown 5K, and the Tower of Terror 10-miler. Oh, sorry. Oh, did I just say the Tower of Terror 10-miler? I mean the Toy Story 10-miler. It's still Tower of Terror to me. But yeah, by the time those three are done, I should be decent for the 5K. Maybe we'll get under 40 minutes, because I have not done 40 minutes at the Bridgewater course yet. It's funny that I sent Dan a theme. The theme is I've never done this at this course, because 5-miler, when it started at the Knights of Columbus, the Eagles, whatever you call that place, when it started there, I could get through the 5-mile course in under an hour. Since it's been at the Lions Club, I've not gotten there in under an hour. I've done it in 101, but I've never gotten under an hour. So the same thing with Crush Cancer. I was doing all 30, 36, 35, 32 when it was at Taunton State. But since Bridgewater, I'm always in the 40s. So I would like to see a sub 40, but we'll see. I think, again, it's probably due to my own, training. So the next one is the Walk for Hunger. The Walk for Hunger is a 20-mile walk through Boston. You go basically from the Boston Common out to Newton, and then you come back up the Charles River. It is a beautiful walk. It is fun. It's challenging too. You have to go up Chestnut Hill. You get to be at the base of Heartbreak Hill. See the Citgo sign. You walk across the Mass Ave Bridge, across the Charles. It is awesome. I've done it probably 7 times, 7 or 8 times, since I started in senior year at high school. So I'm so happy it's back. I actually had signed up for it in 2020. Then obviously that got canceled. And I was looking forward to it being back last year for Dopey training, but it didn't happen. It was still virtual, so I'm thrilled to be going back up to Boston to do the Walk for Hunger. Cannot wait for that. It's fun. They have all these different stops. Each stop has, seems like a little party atmosphere. But they have an intermittent fueling station where they, give you lunch. Any race that gives you lunch or walk that gives you lunch is good. And then you go back to the Boston Common at the end, and you're walking through like the garden area of the Boston Common at the end. It's just pretty. So I cannot wait for that. Um, then our last two, those are in April. No, well, Toy Story and Crush Cancer in April. Walk for Hunger is the beginning of May. Then we've got the Cape Cod Canal Mother's Day 10K. Now, I learned about this one last year. I would call this a hometown race, even though it is nowhere near my house. Um, because the Cape Cod Canal and Bourne Scenic Park, where the race starts, is, just as much home as Taunton is. Um, it is, my family's had campers there throughout, my lifetime, and, I've gone down there for, to stay down there. I've gone down there for parties, just gone down there to walk the canal. I did that for training for the Boston Marathon walk a few years ago. Actually, my goal one day is to complete it. Just because of mileage, I made it all the way till about half a mile left before I had to turn around. And I was like, oh, I could have just finished it. But so the Canal Mother's Day 10K, last year we stayed at a hotel that was on the canal. And Mom and I, spent the weekend there, and we, went out for a Mother's Day dinner the night before, carbo load for me. And then we, the next morning, I went out very early, walked the canal route. It was just easier to walk to the race than to take the car and then get into Bourne Scenic Park. So I walked there, and it was just beautiful. The sun was had just rose. And it was cold, but you're on this, this beautiful canal with the water, and it was just a really peaceful way to start the race. And then you went on the race, and you're running from basically the Bourne Bridge to the Sagamore Bridge, which is the two bridges that connect mainland Massachusetts with Cape Cod. There's actually a third, but that's for trains. So you go from Bourne to Sagamore. That's about 3 miles, and then you turn around. And most down and backs aren't, very exciting. But this one was nice because, again, you're on the water. There's boats passing through. It's just a really nice, peaceful race. I can't wait to do it again. It's actually the first race that I was able to do a 10K without walking. I've never done that. I've never come close to that, and I haven't after that. Again, I think it was just because it was just a really just calm type race, and I just found a nice pace behind someone, and then was able to get, keep that pace past them, and then go on my own. I kept saying, oh, I'm going to keep going till this point, keep going to this point, and it just kept going till the end. I was like, okay. So I'm looking forward to that. Looking forward to, again, staying at that hotel. This year we're staying at on the other side of the hotel. We're pointed towards the canal this time. I checked it out. I was like, oh, how much more does it take to have a canal view? And I checked, and it was like $20, $25. I was like, okay, for $25, I'd much rather look at the canal and see boats and this and that rather than looking at the parking lot or another building. So, so that'll be awesome. And then the next one is the craziest trip I've ever done. So it's Boulder, the 10K. I saw Boulder. I learned about this from the Jar Ox and Spoon channel. They did it last year. It looked like so much fun. It looked like more like a parade and a party than a race. And then I started researching it, and there's like 50,000 people, and there's it starts in Boulder, but it ends in in the University of Colorado's football field, which I know a little bit about college football, not much, but I still thought that was kind of cool. It kind of ends like the finish at the 50 does over here. In the stadium with the camera and all that. And so the more and more I looked into it, the more and more I wanted to do it. So even though, Denver is a very long way from here, I was like, yeah, let's do it. And so after Dopey, I was talking, I know that Jay Crow from the Slackers is going to be there. So I started talking to him, and I started, okay, should I stay here? What should I do? And so he's been helping me, figure out what I was going to do. And so the plans are now set. Now, the biggest issue that I had was transportation because, like I said, I don't fly very well. I don't fly very well alone. And Denver's a lot longer of a flight than Orlando. And I did not know if I could sit in the plane without my anxiety going in for 4.5 hours. So I started looking at maybe doing 2 flights, fly to Chicago or fly to St. Louis or something like that. But it ended up, it was like, okay, I would have a separation in the middle, but I would still fly. I'd actually fly more. So, because now you're going south and then... So, what it ended up was that, okay, then it was like, could I do the nonstop on like JetBlue with a TV and this and that, and, but JetBlue's prices were going up, and, their low price doesn't let you have a carry-on or anything like that, or doesn't let you pick your seat or anything like that, so you'd have to pay more for anything. So I just decided, I was like, let me just look at the train, let me just be insane for a second and look at the train. And the more I looked at the train, the more the train actually made sense. If the prices were going up on the plane, actually what's funny about it is this is the train to Denver. If I stay in a sleeper car, or if I stay in a coach seat for Boston to Chicago, and then a sleeper car from Chicago to Denver, it's actually cheaper than doing the one to Florida. So I'm doing pretty much twice the amount of miles, but it's cheaper. So, yeah, I'm taking the Lakeshore Limited from Boston to Chicago, and then I'm going to go Chicago to Denver on the California Zephyr. And it's funny because since I booked this, I've become so much into trains right now, even though I had just done one, 3 months ago. Oh, no, a month ago. Jeez, where am I at? So, so it's going to be a 44-hour journey, but I'll get to see Chicago, which I've never seen. Let's be honest, I've never gone, with the exception of 2 flights to Vegas with my family, when I was 21 and 22. I've never been west of either Niagara Falls or Tampa, so I've, I've got some, some scenery to see. So yeah, the plan. One thing I said I've got to do is I got to get out for those fresh air stops, set foot on different states that I've never been to, and again just take pictures and of the journey. So I'll get into it. I'll get into Denver on Wednesday before. I know the Marlins are playing. As we know, my gimmick is I'm the Marlins fan. The Marlins are playing the Rockies. This was not planned. I just happened to find out that was happening on the Thursday. So I'll probably do that. Keith Avalone from Play Games lives in the area. We talked about maybe meeting up and having a game day. I have pretty much, a library of Play Games, so it would be very fun. Keith has been down to my area. They did in I think it was 2019 or 2018, one of those years. They did a live event at the board game shop that I used to go to all the time, and so I've met and played games with Keith, so it would be very easy to go meet him and play games there. Like I said, Jay Crow is coming later on in the week, so we're probably going to meet up and then head to the race, and it's just going to be a wonderful time. So I cannot wait for Boulder. Originally, I'll be honest, my anxiety was making me want to cancel that one. I am going to fly home, but west to east is much faster, and I've also got like a midnight flight. So I figure by the end of this whole trip, with the 40-hour train ride and 2 nights on the train, the 6 nights in Denver plus the race and all this, and then having to wait till midnight to fly out, I'm going to be exhausted. I'm not going to care about flying home. I might have a little anxiety, but it's not going to be 4 hours worth. And if there's always a pill if I need it. No. So I absolutely look forward to that now. Again, I was possibly thinking about canceling that one just out of anxiety, but it's going to be amazing. It's going to be probably one of the coolest things I've ever done. So can't wait for that. So that ends the spring, the spring, the best spring ever. But we are going to just talk about one last thing, and it's the Narragansett Summer Running Festival. Excuse me. It's at Stonehill College. They do a 10K and a half marathon. I did my first one was in 2013, where I did the 10K. I was trying to get a proof of time for, I think, Tower of Terror. I think it was, and then I enjoyed it, but I didn't do that race again until last year when I was training for Dopey, and boy, I enjoyed it last year. I think I know I did enjoyed it more than the first time because over the years, I'm sure, but they have changed the course, and this course had a lot more through the college, so you were going past buildings and you were going past dorms and stuff like that. It just looked so much cooler this year than it did in 2013. So I can't wait to do it. It's not the easiest race. There's this god awful hill which you have to do twice it's a 2-lap 5K for the 10K people, and so you have to do this god awful hill twice. Which actually is not bad because in 2013 you actually had to go up that hill 3 times, but still. And last year it was hot as hell. It was like 85 degrees plus at that point. I know some people there was 1 or 2 people collapsed on that course. But it was still a very fun time. They have a nice little, the pre and post race. There's a lot of things going on. There's tents and food and drinks. They give you 2 beers at the end. So that will be such a fun one. That's in July. We'll cap off our best spring ever, even into the summer. And then I'm still looking at other things, like I'm looking at the Boston Marathon Jimmy Fund Walk. I am looking at Marathon Weekend. I was originally looking at Wine and Dine, but I think if I'm going to do that, the thing is, I was trying to debate, do I do the Marathon Walk for Jimmy Fund and then Dopey, or do I do the Wine and Dine and maybe a springtime, either springtime surprise or princess or something like that. But I don't know. Honestly, I was kind of flip-flopping, and then I watched the Slacker Symposium on Dopey, which if you guys watch, that's a great video of talking about Dopey. And I got mentioned a lot in that one. But, yeah, I think after watching their video on the Slack Symposium about Dopey, I kind of want to do it again. I think Dopey kind of reminded me of camp. Now you want to go back the next year. And, it was just so fun. And so I think I'm going to do that. So I think after Narragansett, I'm going to probably start training for the Boston Marathon Walk and Dopey. And what will be the thing, I think the best way to do it is to train for the Marathon Walk with the Marathon Walk's training plan, but instead of walking it, run it that way, or walk it that way. I'll be a lot further ahead in October than I was this year. So we'll see. We got a long way to go. But I just wanted to go and talk about this best spring ever and all these cool events. If you guys are nearby or want to come visit, feel free to come join one of these events. Let me know. But if not, I will see you all soon. We'll have another video, probably the Rainham Charity 5 Miler video, because that's only 3 weeks away. So it will probably be the debut of the camera videos. So I hope everyone's doing well. I hope everyone takes care, stays safe, and we'll see you soon. Take care, everybody.